What are we here to talk about? We're not here to talk about how I was right about what would win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. We're not here to talk about man-child celebrities doing things and embarrassing themselves. We're not here to talk about some other new animated show that I probably haven't heard about yet, but I'll make a video about in a month or two from now. We're here to talk about a game. And usually I'll do impressions of different shows or games, or I will do some kind of heavy analysis and try to get a little bit deeper into it, do some kind of heavier stuff. No to all of that. We're pushing it all aside because I just need to tell you that this new Kirby game is a stone cold classic. This is immediately up there with the biggest Switch games, just in terms of quality, charm, appeal, polish, ideas, reinventing a somewhat stagnant series or character. It is really something special. And I know like everyone else out there has already talked about how 2022 is already, like we could get just junk for the rest of the year and 2022 would already be one of those historic years we look back on. We have those years in music, we have those years in movies, we have those years in video games, and 2022 has already hit the mark, has more than hit the mark. And I personally, I've kind of surprised myself, but so far I have purchased 3 full-price video games this year. I bought Legends Arceus. I made a whole video about that. I bought Elden Ring. I've been playing that frequently. It's something else. It's a different discussion. And I pre-ordered Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And all of these games are very enjoyable for predictably completely different reasons. But out of the 3 so far, personally, this Kirby game is so much my thing. It is so core to what I love to see in games and what I love to experience through games. So to explain that a bit, for one thing, I'm not really someone who comes to games for challenge. Sometimes I want that, but it's really just one flavor on the palate. There are a bunch of other things that I look for in games and that encourage me to return to them over time. Freedom, player choice, being able to do what you want, being able to sort of creatively express yourself through the game, incredible environments, fun characters, great writing, just inventive game design. There's so many different things that can attract me to a game. Challenge is just one of those things. I'll be talking about difficulty of the Kirby game in just a bit. But anyway, one of my gripes with plenty of giant AAA game fare from plenty of other companies, especially Western companies, is that most of the time, and this has been a thing since at least the early days of like PC gaming especially, we saw so many games and we continue to see so many games that are set in just like really, not necessarily ugly, but just awful environments. We have the Doom stuff and Doom likes in hell. Literally, we have demons everywhere, we have high fantasy stuff, we got wizards, we got collapsed places, especially in recent years, we have so many post-apocalyptic games, and so many of these games, well, they can still be great. I'm not saying that these types of environments and these types of tones are a deal breaker for me, but after a while, I get so sick of just, you gotta fight it's so tough, and you gotta fight everybody, and everything's miserable and the monsters are hard and everything's crazy and ugly and weird and there's blood everywhere and stuff. Can be great, but it's not something that I connect with. Those are not typically game worlds that I want to be in. And that's so much of what encourages me to stick around with a game, even a difficult game, is if the environment is really pleasant. And that's been a big help with Elden Ring too. Just certain areas are so pretty fun to be in that like the difficulty, you kind of shrug it off. You're just like, I just want to keep playing. I want to keep being here in this space. And with Kirby, there's I can't think of another recent comparison. Certainly Animal Crossing New Horizons and plenty of the other Animal Crossing games have kind of hit on this specific style that's incredibly cartoony, very colorful, but at the same time still not really like oversaturated, and it doesn't all look like candy worlds and craziness. It's just very pleasant, and somehow they each strike this visual tone that's just very satisfying. It feels very cohesive, and my goodness, in fact, I would say that this is one of the big reasons why I really enjoy plenty of first party or second party Nintendo stuff as compared to other massive AAA games from big old game studios, is that the visual design is part of it, the charm and the polish, of course, the creativity, but like that environment, all these other design aspects align with a tone that isn't so self-serious. These are not games games that think they're the most important thing in the world. They're not games that try to tell you to spend all of your time there. It's just fun, and it's just joyful. And joy, that's a word I think I'm going to be using a lot here. That's what's at the meat of it, at least for me. I want to be in this game. And even though there are some heavier, darker zones, more intimidating areas towards the late game, which I won't spoil, it's all still within this style, within this look and this tone. It definitely doesn't stand out in a bad way. And if anything, I think that those types of areas make it even more satisfying to return to your gorgeous, wonderful home base of Waddle Dee Town. Waddle Dee Town could have been the entire game for me, honestly. The levels are great. I mean, again, not spoiling stuff. The adventure, fun times, great 3D platforming fun, and obviously just the fact that this is a 3D platformer from such a big name is a huge deal, and the inevitable success of this title could possibly finally show Nintendo specifically, and maybe the broader games industry, that like, oh yeah, if we make like really high quality 3D platformers, people will buy them and play them and love them and speedrun them and everything else. This might do it. We've had enough of those successes in the recent past. This might be the one to tip things over the edge. That's just another reason why this is such an exciting game and such an exciting moment in the, I don't know, gaming, Nintendo, whatever. Waddle Dee Town is an absolute blast. And I was worried when I beat the main story that would be it. Kind of like Breath of the Wild, which I guess this is a spoiler if you haven't gotten there yet, but once you beat the game, like your main objective, you don't just get to hang out. And that is a massive disappointment to me. And everybody's like, oh, just start a new game. It's like, no, like I want to hang out in Hyrule after I've taken care of the big, ugly, glowy castle monster guy. I want to just be in this space because it's delightful. And yeah, it is still fun to open up other files. I have 4 or 5 Breath of the Wild files, but I just want to be there. I want to be overpowered sometimes too. I want harder challenges. You get that from the DLC. I just want to hang out in these worlds. And I was so worried when I hit the credits on this game, not 100% completion, but the main story, you get the credits. I was terrified. I was like, oh, is it just going to kick me out and be like, hey, start over if you want to do some of this stuff again or do more in Waddle Dee Town? No. No. You get to go back and there's so much more. There is a post game, not going to say what it is. You get a couple mini games. Some of those were shown off in trailers. I'll show some of them here. You can gamble. You can just straight up gamble with in-game currency, and it's great. It's really good, like surprisingly fun. There are little animations for the little guys when you hit. I just I have a hard time thinking of other examples, at least in recent memory, where I've come across a game where it just clicked so immediately for me. And I knew it was going to click, and that's why I pre-ordered, and I can't express how happy I am that it actually turned out that way. It's what I expected and so much more. This was not a slapdash effort by any stretch of the imagination. It's straight from hell. They did an excellent job in my opinion. It's not a perfect game, and I'm not trying to critique the game in terms of design and every little detail of gameplay. Other people will do that, don't you worry. Speedrunners will break the whole thing down. But just in terms of casual play and just wanting to experience a delightful 3D platformer, it gives you so much. It gives you so much, and it reminds me of something that James Stephanie Sterling said in one of their videos on Mario Odyssey, and specifically talking about just like post-game and additional challenges and things like that it offers to you. I think they described it as the game essentially saying, here is so much more game for you to play. And that is 100% how I feel about this. I'm not often inspired to grab all the collectibles and stuff. I'm not inspired to revisit levels all that much. And there are a few things in this game that I'm not exactly excited to repeat, just not really my speed. But overall, it's really something to behold. Difficulty, yeah, I mean, I'm typically pretty bad at 3D platformers, so I'm not the best judge of that kind of thing. It did get pretty darn hard towards the end of the main story, I will say. Well, basically just one boss encounter that's real different. It is a difficulty spike. We know that the game gives you 2 difficulty modes to begin with. You can also get power-ups for Kirby if you want to sort of enhance a specific attribute. I don't know, it works. It works. The fact that it has difficulty modes to begin with is wonderful. The fact that it has like power-ups you can carry around with you, healing items you can carry around, excellent. But but it also doesn't go the Breath of the Wild route of just saying, oh, you can have as many of these healing items as you want, and you can just use them in the middle of fights and you'll be fine. No, you actually do kind of have to do things. These are curated areas, curated levels when you're out in the game proper. You do have to play the game, and then it just keeps ratcheting up difficulty in small ways, whether it's asking you to explore more diligently or to move through a level faster. There's so many things to do, and because of all the stuff that I've been talking about so far, just the environment and tone and charm and characters, everything, I want to do it. This is something that I'm going to be going back to over and over. And I don't know if people are going to get upset about like a slant comparison to Mario Odyssey. I've kind of been joking around that this is Odyssey 2, because we have not heard hide nor hair Odyssey 2. It better be coming eventually because we need it in our lives. But for the moment, just in terms of creativity, communicating joy to the player, this is awfully close to Odyssey. And that is not faint praise. That's one of my favorite games. Similar thing here. Obviously, the levels are not on the scale of Odyssey. You don't have a free camera, which is one of my tiny little complaints, I suppose. But outside of that, I've just had a fantastic time. There's certainly a risk of some recency bias sneaking into my voice here and what I'm saying, but I don't know. I guess I could revisit this in the future and see if my opinion has changed, but I don't know. If anything, I just feel like I'm going to find new things to love about it. That's like the best possible case. That's the best possible scenario that I could think of, and I wanted to share that. Now, if you're feeling the FOMO on this one, if you've really wanted it, can't afford it right now or something like that, don't worry. Take a deep breath. It'll still be there for a very long time. You can get it later. You can wait for a sale or get a cheaper physical copy, whatever. It's cool. It's not something you have to get into right away. But if you have the money, if you've already been considering it, or you're between this and another game that you've been looking at, if your tastes align with mine in any way whatsoever, I think you're really going to like what you find here. And that's it. That's the main thing I wanted to say. Sorry it took me so long. I hope you've enjoyed the footage, but that's all for now. Thanks for stopping by.